Hey, this is Donald Heslop, Deuce CCIE and owner and principal of Padlock Technologies, here to talk about another FTD topic. Actually, is one of these topics that I get the most questions on. Is what is the difference between Eve and SSL decryption? So Eve is a technology that is specific to the FTD. Came out in, I believe, 7.27. It might have been 5, but I'm going to say 7.27. And it is basically N bar for the FTD with a couple little trinkets in it. But I'm going to explain a little bit about what it is and how it's different from SSL decryption and why it is not a replacement for SSL decryption. So let's start with the Eve versus SSL decrypt. So what Eve is the encrypted visibility engine. And what that is it will, I'll put Eve in here. It looks at the TLS handshake. All right. So it looks at the TLS handshake to try to identify that what that traffic is. It is not decrypting the traffic to tell you what the traffic is. So if you think about, if you're a route and switch guy or girl, there's a technique called N bar. And what N bar is when you turn it on, it allows the router to try to, I don't want to use the word guess so much, but it tries to figure out what type of traffic it is so then you can create policy based on the applications it saw, right? Because Cisco software, you may not get every application because there's so many applications it can't keep up. So they use something like MBAR to try to identify based on port numbers and stuff like that. And then you can create your policy based on what MBAR found. Eve is kind of the same thing, right? So what it will do is once you turn this on, and you have to turn this on in the advanced settings of your ACP policy, what will happen is it'll turn on and then you need to let it monitor for a little bit. It's automatically a monitor when you turn it on. And after you turn it on, you'll notice that when you go to create policy, there will be a section that says Eve. And that will have every application that Eve has saw going through the firewall. You can also go to the dashboard, the application statistics dashboard, speaking too fast, and it will give you a encrypted visibility engine like tile, and you can actually see exactly what applications Eve has found. And then in your ACP rules, you can create an ACE, which is a access control entry that will specify a certain action based on a certain protocol or application that Eve has found, right? So think of this as the answer to Palo Alto's App ID, right? App ID is great. They kind of were beating Cisco with the App ID, but now with Eve, you can pretty much have one-to-one mapping a little bit better. So in certain situations than Palo, you can now create policy, custom policy based on applications that are seen, and it sees a lot. And it's using, again, the TLS handshake to say, okay, based on this TLS handshake, this looks like WebEx, this looks like Slack, this looks like this looks like that. And then you create your policies. You can block it, you can trust it, you can do whatever you want. Now, my other video, now you can see the difference between even SSL decryption if you watch my other video, but SSL decryption is actually breaking the packet, right? Decrypting the packet, inspecting the packet, re-signing the packet, and sending it on its way. So in my last video, I said there was a firewall, and then there's the internet, and then there's the internal network. Now, what this is going to do is when traffic comes in, and I'm just going to do outbound decryption. I won't do inbound decryption because you look at my other video and you'll know the difference between inbound and outbound uh, SSL decryption. So if someone's going outbound, what I'm going to do is, because I don't own the cert and the key, what I'm going to do is do a man in the middle attack. And then I'm going to decrypt the packet. Right? And then once I decrypt the packet, I'm going to re-sign it with a key that the internal network trusts, right? And usually this key that I re-sign it with is going to be something that's signed by your internal PKI. So your internal PKI is going to sign this /CA, all right? Now, the certificate is going to be a sub-CA certificate, all right? Cannot be a web server certificate. It needs to be a sub-CA certificate to do SSL decryption, and that doesn't matter what vendor you use. That's the certificate you're supposed to use. Now, the difference between the two, pros and cons. So with Eve, the pros are, the main one, I guess you would say, is you don't need SSL decryption. No SSL decrypt needed. Right? It's going to try its best to guess what that application is based on the TLS handshake. If you don't want to turn on SSL decryption, that is fine. Just know that you're not going to get that deep packet inspection that you get with SSL decryption in Eve. So that's a con, right? The con is you won't get the deep packet inspection. SSL decryption, pro, deep packet inspection, right? Deep inspection with this one, because you're actually decrypting the packet, viewing it, and then re-signing it. So you're always going to see that traffic. That's a pro. What's a con? Bandwidth hit, right? Bandwidth and resource hit, and that's my dogs, by the way. Resource hit. If you turn on SSL decryption, you will see a bandwidth or resource hit. Now, the FTDs have gotten better. Back in the day, you used to just rule of thumb was like, hey, you turn this on, you're going to hit a 25 to 30% hit to your bandwidth because it has to process all this stuff. That's the difference between Eve, our encryption visibility engine, and SSL decryption on an FTD. If you're looking to implement an FTD in your environment, migrating from a different device, you want a assessment of something that you already put in place. There's a link below. Click it. We'll do a discovery call. Again, not a sales call. Don't know your environment, so I can't really sell you on the call. Just want to see what's going on with your environment, see where we can help, if we can help, and then possibly have a project, right? If not, I hope this video was very informative. Thank you and have a nice day.